Hi, I'm Tristan Linton, and I'm a recording engineer at the Vienna Synchron stage. With Volker, so far we've recorded The Day of the Jackal, out now on Sky. We've had the Dune Prophecy series, and I believe his first session here at Synchron was the Honor of Kings, Misty Marsh's main theme recording, the cinematic theme. And that was a lovely experience. So it was the first time Volker was here and got to experience the hall. And it's always a great atmosphere when the composer is in the house because the musicians feed off that energy and you can have a lot more dialogue in the booth as well. So that was all around a great experience. All of Volker's projects are in antiphonal. So antiphonal is also known as the German seating. And there's the German and the American seating. The German seating was pretty much the standard way of orchestra setup up until the beginning of the 20th century. So most composers, or all composers, pretty much wrote for this German seating. And that basically means you have the violin ones on the left, and opposite you have the violin twos. Left of the middle you have the cellos, and the violas are lucky they get to stay where they are. The basses then go behind those groups, so they're in the middle. And that's often in modern music, in modern recording, often the point of having this mirrored or balanced setup is that so you can have that anchor in the middle, you can have the bass in the middle. And that then goes really well with modern music production because a lot of that production is centered around the bass in the middle. A bit like if you had dance music, it would be kind of strange if you had the bass coming from the right speaker and the bass drum. It'd be a bit strange in the club. The American seating is violin one, violin two, so next to each other, viola, cellos, and the bass is an extension of the cellos behind that. This came about with the advent of recording itself. So back then you only recorded with one microphone, pretty soon two, and then more, but very few microphones in the beginning. And so the only way you could have any kind of separation from lower to higher frequencies was by physically separating them in a room. If you think back to early jazz records, there was the same thing. You had the bass and the drums on one side and you had the horns or the melody on the other side. So you were able to have some kind of balance even with one microphone. For a lot of orchestras, they're used to playing like that, but maybe not used to playing this repertoire like that. So in Vienna, for example, the Philharmonic play in this setup as well, and they're used to that. What's different here is in scoring you need a lot of precision. The musicians play with the click, they're playing to pre-records, which means they're playing to the other elements of the score that the composer has already written for. And so precision is really important. When the violins are sitting opposite each other, they're a little further away from each other. So the human ear also notices the differences in timing when things are left and right a lot more precise than they are if they were sitting next to each other. So that means it's really important to get the timing right, and that can be a challenge in recording situations. For the engineer, everything's possible. So we have a ton of mics, we've got a ton of channels, and these days you can get very good separation if you have the basses in the middle and you have the violins spread out across the left and right end of the stereo field. So that's no problem for the recording. What is interesting is the difference in tonality. For example, the violin, the instrument, is projecting most of its sound a little bit of an angle. And when the second violins are sitting opposite, they're projecting back into the orchestra. So you'll notice a little bit of a darker sound coming from the second violins as opposed to the first violins who are projecting out towards what would be the audience. So this is one of the things that is a little bit different in the German seating. The whole Dune world is heavily based on these dark and intense, sometimes unsettling soundscapes. I think Volker's style is a perfect match for this and really represents this Dune world so well. In terms of recording this kind of music or this style, there's nothing really we do differently. We always listen to pre-records, which is what the composer sends along in his Pro Tools sessions. So that's what he's produced so far and printed, and not what we're recording in the session. So we always listen to that to make sure we're in the right direction and we're thinking about what his end goal is. What does he have in mind for this soundscape? So we're not recording a separate thing and then putting it on top. We're recording it with that. Whether the musicians hear that as well is different. It depends on the cue. It depends on the recording. Sometimes they have a lot of information anyway. With the click track, they want to hear themselves. They're reading the music for the first time. So that can be sometimes too much, but in the booth and during the recording, we're always listening to what the composers delivered with what we're recording live. Overall, we've had really good experiences and a lot of fun working with Volker, and we look forward to many, many more projects in the future.